Oh. 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 Satchidanandarupaya Vishwotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadyasya yatonvayadi tarataschaiteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sadani Rasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Keita Votra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudya Tetra Kritibihi Shushrushubistatkshanat. Haryom and greetings from Niagara Falls. Mahashiva's Ratri is coming shortly. This is one of the most important days of the year for a seeker. It is Bhagwan's birthday. There are huge quotes around this idea of birthday, okay? Bhagwan is not born. This is only for us to reflect upon. When all of you celebrate Mahashiva's Ratri, what kind of icons do you see around and on Bhagwan Shiva? Please share with me in the chat. What kind of icons, articles do you see around and on Bhagwan Shiva? You see the Bilva Patra, you see Devi Ganga, you see a crescent moon. You also see Bhagwan Shiva's Trishula. In English, it's trident. Am I saying that correctly? Isn't there a gum named Trident? They owe royalties back to Bhagwan Shiva. The word Shula means affliction. Shula means affliction. And there's many frameworks of afflictions upon us, such as avidya, kama, karma. I feel incomplete, so I have desires, so I have to be busy. Another, in reference to Bhagavad Gita, moha, bhaya, shoka. I'm confused about what I'm supposed to do, so I'm afraid of tomorrow, and this settles as sorrow. Here's one more that perhaps we can relate to more so. It is being tired physically, bored mentally, and frustrated intellectually. See, when I talk about avidya, kama, karma, you all smile and nod. Yes, avidya, kama, karma. But now I've changed it to Are you all feeling tired right now? No. Are you feeling bored? Definitely no. Are you feeling frustrated? Most definitely no. But generally we do. Bhagwan Shiva's Trishula is the way to end these afflictions. And there is no other way. So many of us are analysts, etc. And so what do? We try to find solutions. We try to create solutions. The only solution to these frameworks of afflictions that I've shared is Bhagavan. And that is what this course is flowing through and to Bhagavan. In our past chapters, we found ourselves in Syamanta Panchaka. Syamanta Panchaka, all of the people living in areas around there had gathered. They gathered for protection and purification, and they hadn't been together for a long time, so everyone was talking. It was like they came out of quarantine. Reviewing some of those thoughts. Amba masman asuyetha deva kridana kanaran ishasya hivashe lokaha gurute karyate thava. Shri Vasudeva shares with his sister, Devi Kunti, there is no purpose in complaining or blaming or annotating. Why? Hari Icha. Because of God's will. If you reflect on this, you will practice this. What this looks like is one becomes more accepting. Now that may be subtle for us too. What does it look like? What does it feel like to be more accepting? You become more adapting. Now, I'm not going to go further. What do you want me to say? You eat this food. You walk like this. You're more adapting. Think of this logically. Yesterday, we had our Vanaprastha Samvada. My parents, who are older and physically not as strong as myself and Sheila, find it hard to shovel their driveway. We accept that. So what do? We adapt to shovel our driveway to go meet them rather than expecting them to come meet us. I'm just trying to give you a micro example of this. If you accept, you will adapt. So now gauge yourself. If you're not adapting, that means you're not accepting. That means you're more like Devi Kunti in this context rather than Shri Vasudeva. More dialogue. Mai bhaktir hi bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate dishtya yadasi mat snehaha bhavati namadapanaha. Bhagavan Krishna is sharing with the gopis, you are all bhagya. You are all fortunate that you have devotion to me, because that is the only way to experience Amrita. Without this bhakti, there is no Amrita. Opening this up, Mrita means death. Amrita, no death. None of us have experienced death before. So what does this look like in our day? No change. Death is a more extreme expression of change. Change is happening all around us, but what does it feel like inside of us? Fear. So what is Amrita? It is no death. Fine, that's technical. No change. Okay. The feeling is of no fear. One is fearless in all that comes with that, which means no regrets, no anxieties. Only possible, the only solution is bhakti. We continue. We're flowing through chapters 83 and 84. Everyone is still at Syamanta Panchaka, this festival. Skanda 10, chapter 83, verse 39, 10:83:39. Devi Lakshmana is speaking to Devi Draupadi. For your reference, Devi Lakshmana is the youngest or newest of Bhagavan Krishna's principal Devis. I shared all 8 with you. She is the youngest, the newest. Atma Ramasya Tasyema Vayam Vegrahadasikaha Sarva Sanga Nivrityada Tapasacha Bhabhuvima. Devi Draupadi is asking all of Bhagavan Krishna's Devis, how did you meet? How did you get married? And so all of the Devis share individually how they met and got married to Bhagavan Krishna. Devi Lakshmana shares last, and what she shares is, Bhagavan Krishna is our Atma. Our marrying is not an external marriage only. We've always been married. We've always been one. How did this happen? Vayam Vegrahadasikaha. We feel that we are his dasikaha. We are his servants. In our home, that's how we live. Sarva Sanga Nivrityada. We have let go of all other relationships. We have attachment to none other than the one we serve, who we feel in our heart. Tapasacha Bhabhuvima. This is how we live. This is our tapas, our practice, our lifestyle. Leading up to this portion of this chapter, the Devas, like Raja Yudhishthira, Sri Vasudeva, etc., are all with Bhagavan Krishna. He was just with the gopis, now he's with them, and they're all praising Bhagavan Krishna. And as I continue to guide us through these chapters, are you there right now? Are you in Syamanta Panchaka, eavesdropping on these lovely dialogues? They share with Bhagavan Krishna, they're all praising him, that you are the one who is deeper than the intellect. Remind me, where does the ego first express? In the intellect. So you being deeper than the intellect means you are the one who is real. We feel that we're the ego, when the truth is you are us. They share that you've been born, you have manifested to resuscitate the Veda. And this is such an honest sharing that they're all scholars in terms of the Veda, but they're not living by the Veda. And that's why Bhagavan Krishna has been born, to resuscitate the meaning of the Veda. So that's what the Devas are doing with Bhagavan Krishna. Devi Draupadi, she wanders to all of the other Devis and asks them, how did you meet? How did you get married? And many of the Devis share with Devi Draupadi, Virya Ashulkam. Ashulkam essentially means dowry. What a bride's family gives to the groom and the groom's family for this marriage to happen. So what did these Devis share? What did Bhagavan Krishna give? Virya. He showed his courage. He showed his brilliance. And that's why they were married. See how wrongly dowry is interpreted now? The right implication is when you have an awesome bride, she deserves an awesome groom, and vice versa. This idea of letting go of all other relationships and attachments and only having a relationship and attachment with Bhagavan Krishna. Earlier this week, I'd shared with all of you that Acharya Shankara compares those who are attached as silkworms. What comes out of this worm? Silk. But where does the silk go? That same silk cocoons this worm. That's what attachment is. Think of your attachments. If you don't know what they are, I will tell you in a simple test. Imagine some of the relationships you have not being there tomorrow. And whatever is making you very sad, that's what you're attached to. All of us are going to feel sad if that relationship is not there. If I don't see you next week in class, I will be sad. Maybe you'll be sad if you don't see me in class next week. But it's that shoka, that very sad, that is indicative of that attachment. Now, expanding this, what causes raga? What has caused you to be attached to being A, being B, being C? What is the direct reason for that attachment? It is, these are all fine sharings, like incompleteness and desire, but the factual answer is vikshepa, projection. There are some parents or parent who are awful. I'm not referring to you, I mean in society, that it's criminal that they are actually legally a parent. They are not attached to their child. Why? There's no projection that this child is going to bring me happiness. Conversely, it's the exact opposite. This child is going to bring me sadness, so I treat them like this. So we can't say it's longevity that creates attachment. Some parents are awful, some parents are great. It's not just because of longevity. It is vikshepa. It is this projection that this is the source of happiness. What I'm sharing with you is not new. You've heard this from me 100 times. I'm going to give you more ways to reflect on this. Whenever you sense this attachment, get into macro thinking. Macro thinking. Typically, people say, think big. Here, I'm using the word macro. Your understanding and appreciation of the scriptures that all of us have been born millions of times. The people we're attached to have been born millions of times. 1 divided by 1,000,000 is nothing. So who are you to that person? Who is that person to you? From a macro perspective, no one. This is why I share with all of you to engage in seva. And my expectations of you of seva is never about smallness. It is always about bigness, not because I'm incomplete and I am trying to find happiness through you, but this is a way to help us to feel this macro perspective. The utility is you become more independent. One more insight into how to not be a silkworm. When we finish today and people ask you, what were you doing for the past hour? You share, we learned how not to be a silkworm. That will be the branding for Vedanta and Bhagavata. The less you identify with, the less you will be dedicated. When you identify only with your body, you are only going to be dedicated to your body. But if you start to identify with more, you will be dedicated to more. Being dedicated to more is equivalent to being detached. Some commentators on Bhagavad Gita have shared Prince Arjuna's disease is not of bhaya, but it's raga. Not fear, but attachment. He goes from being attached to Dharma, to Pandava, to Arjuna. See how his identification shrinks, and so does his dedication. And what does Bhagavan Krishna guide him to? Identify with more. Now tell me, who identifies with all? Who is the one that's always looking at you, looking after you? That's how we become Bhagavan. Identify with more. You will become detached. After Devi Draupadi hears from the 8 wives, and they're described in different ways. Sometimes they're described as the principal wives. After she hears from them, then she asks the 16,000 Devis about how they met and married Bhagavan Krishna. And theirs was simpler. It wasn't 8 different kathas. It was just one katha. We were not free. He freed us. And that's the completion of chapter 83. Everyone is still at the festival. Everyone hasn't seen each other for so long. So they keep talking and talking and talking in a lovely way. We're now on chapter 84. This is verse 11. 84:11. This is Bhagavan Krishna speaking to the rishis. Nahyam mayani tirthani na deva mrichilamayaha te punantyuru kalena darshana deva sadavaha. Bhagavan Krishna's praising the rishis, and he says, Nahyam mayani tirthani. Tirtha, that is the holy waters, are purifying, but not the most purifying. Nadeva mrichilamayaha, murtis, that which is made out of clay or stone, are purifying, but not the most purifying. Why? Te punanturu kalena, they are not the most purifying because both of these take time to purify. That water is more biological. The murti is more psychological. Darshana deva sadavaha, but seeing, being with a sadhu, with a rishi, is the most purifying because it takes no time at all. Just seeing them, just being with them purifies. Do you agree? First of all, you must say yes because Bhagavan Krishna said it. Who are you to say no? But more logically, do you agree? When I simply share the words, Sri Ramakrishna. That is Puja Swami Vivekananda's guru. Don't you feel inspired and moved when I share Puja Swami Chinmaya? Don't you feel grateful and how hard he worked for us? Most of us have never met him before. I've been reflecting a lot on this teaching. The more pure a being is, the more they can transform another. Now, every one of us wants to help our families or communities. How? You become more pure. Sharing more of what happened in this chapter, after the gopis heard about the bhakti of the Devis, they felt ashcharya. They were in wonder at how much these Devis love Bhagavan. All of these gopis were crying. And what that shows is the need for role models in our lives. When these gopis heard about these Devis, they started to feel that it's possible to love Bhagavan like this. And those Devis know about the gopis, that the gopis love Bhagavan in the same way. If we never meet a bhakta, we will always feel that this is theoretical. But once you hear a bhakta, you start to feel that all of this is possible, reasonable, practical. When bhaktas meet bhaktas, what do they talk about? Bhagavan. Have the right role models. And now I'm sharing this with all those who are marginally older. If you remember in yesterday's workshop, one of the questions one of our seekers asked is, how do we continue to follow this path if our spouse is not involved? And my father, who facilitated the workshop, he very practically shared, if you look around, yesterday there was more than 100 cameras. Most of them were cameras with one person there. Not two people there, but one person there. He said, you keep being steadfast in pursuing this path independently. You find role models, and there are role models. Look around. I've lost track of how many classes we've had, but we're probably approaching 108 hours of Bhagavatam now. Bhagavan Krishna shares a great deal about the greatness of the rishis. And a reason for this, I'm sharing this logically. Let me ask you first. If you have an icon of Bhagavan Krishna, and you have a choice of putting a tap light, those electric battery-operated lights, and a diya, which one will you put in front of Bhagavan Krishna? A diya. Why? Why will you do this? It's genuine, it's more natural. Exactly. Both are presenting lights, whether it's a battery or it's a flame, but that flame makes that murti as if move. Agreed? When that flame moves, I feel like Bhagavan Krishna is smiling more, or now he's angry at me. Our rishis bring the Shastra and Bhagavan to life. We know lots about Bhagavan. Theoretically, the biggest being, Bhagavan, lives over there. And we know lots about our Shastra too, but we don't follow it because we feel it's ancient. But our rishis combine Bhagavan and the Shastra. They live this. All of this becomes alive for us. I'll read a couple of more insights, and then there's two awesome frameworks that I'm only going to introduce, and this is going to become your raw for the week. Bhagavan Krishna is continuing to praise the rishis, and he says, he who considers this corpse-like body composed of the three humors as the Atma, he who thinks of his wife and other close relatives as his own, he who looks upon clay and stone as objects of worship and water pools as holy waters, but never sees any divinity in the wise and holy men, he is to be termed a veritable kara. Someone share with me in the chat what kara means in English. Here they used, to me, an offensive word, a very short offensive word that starts with A. No, kara means donkey, not bull. That's a good thing. Is a donkey who is bringing grass for cattle. That is a strong poetic description that those who are living without feeling this divinity are donkeys. Donkeys engaged in manual living. These rishis, after hearing Bhagavan Krishna's insights, they share back with Bhagavan. Bhagavan, your heart is the Veda. If anyone wants to know how to find a place to live in Bhagavan's heart, follow the Veda. They share, yogis only see Bhagavan with their eyes closed. Bhaktas see Bhagavan with their eyes opened. And here are the frameworks that they share. This is what I want you to reflect on. After this love is exchanged between Bhagavan and rishis, rishis and Bhagavan, Bhagavan Krishna's father, Sri Vasudeva, comes to realize that he doesn't know his son. Hearing these rishis praise Bhagavan Krishna, he doesn't know who his son is, so he wants to know more. And he asks those rishis, how can I feel what you feel? And they share, you need to engage in a yajna. Yajna. So here's what I want you to reflect on. We all have 3 ashanas, or desires. These are fundamental desires. These desires are putra ashana, vitta ashana, and loka ashana. For those who are not familiar with this Sanskrit, it is the desire for pleasure, the desire for possession, and the desire for position. What I want you to reflect on, what is the way to end these desires? That is shared. That is shared in this chapter, but I want you to reflect on it first. What is the way to quell these desires? And here's another framework. This is what I also want you to think about. Every one of us is born with 3 rinas. Sometimes 5. In this chapter, 3 are given. Deva rina, Pitra rina, Rishi rina. The debt we owe to nature's forces, the debt we owe to our family, that means family forever, ancestors, and the debt we owe to our parampara, our Sadguru Shishya parampara. I want you to reflect on, how do you pay off these debts? How do you end these debts in this lifetime? The answers to this are also shared in this chapter. I know you will reflect on this lots, and you will come up with the right answer so that when I speak about it next week, You will smile and nod. Oh.